I'm recording now, by the
Yeah,
way.
sure.
All right. So, the first thing I wanted to ask you, how was your first week on campus? Obviously, you've been here a month already.
Yes.
But
yes.
first week, fall semester, that's, where everybody gets introduced.
Yeah. It's been very good. It's not only the first week,
Mhm.
the first month, where it was fairly empty and quiet, but getting to know people, mainly the staff members, trying to meet up with the community leaders to understand the role of University of Michigan Flint in the city of Flint
Mhm.
and vice versa. This relationship is so important. So, and then the first week, so I was there when the move-in to the dorms happened in the first
Mhm.
street, and here
Right.
in Riverfront,
Mhm.
everything was smooth. So I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yep. So, the first thing that came to mind when I started doing a little research on you is
yeah.
you started your educational career in Ann Arbor, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
and
right.
your wife worked for 19
Flint.
years
Yeah,
at UM-Flint.
yeah.
So, how does that experience? So, and then you've moved on to Purdue, University of Illinois, Rutgers.
Yeah.
How has that experience with very large colleges?
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to translate into managing a much smaller regional college?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting and an important question. The core items in a public university are the same. Not a private university,
Mhm.
but I've spent my entire career in large public universities. So they are the same. You're talking about state appropriations, you're talking about graduation rates, you're talking about retention rates, you're talking about enrollment. They're the same.
Mhm.
In those institutions, enrollment was not a problem. It keeps on increasing because the demand for those. Here, as you know, enrollment has been decreasing 3-4 years in a row.
Mhm.
So that's a difference. What I can bring to bear is what kind of things we used to do there that we took for granted, but so having more recruiters all around the state, in the region, in the Midwest, those things were given. So I'm looking at issues here and I'm benefiting from that experience. The retention rate, the graduation rate, there it was better, but there we had more resources, more advisors, more counselors, we are trying to do that here. So it is smaller in size, but the key issues, the fundamentals of a public university are no different. No different. And I pay attention to enrollment.
Mhm.
We have to turn it around. I pay attention to retention, first year to second year and so forth, and the graduation rates. So my experience in those 4 public universities dealing with, a lot of first generation students, a lot of international students, is helping me think about new ways of addressing issues like that here.
Mhm. And a question that sort of leads into this, a lot of the people that are proud to be studying at UM-Flint, one thing, and this is I think something a lot of students eventually come around to, and it happened to me too. You start at Flint, and it feels like a place to start, not a place to finish, right? That's something that's very common here among students. And the longer you stay here, the more you fall in love with it. And that part of that is the culture, right? And a lot of the times it feels like programs that are here to help the university are here to help, but they want to turn UM-Flint into another Ann Arbor, for example, right? It seems like, how do you, like, and you mentioned, everything, even though it's a different scale, the fundamental issues are all the same. how do you apply that knowledge without necessarily changing the campus culture or the feel of coming to UM-Flint, right? Because, yeah.
No, it's a very a pithy statement you made, that it feels like a good place to start but not to finish. I want to change that. I want to change that. Absolutely, I want to change that. I hadn't heard that statement here, but now that I hear it, I'm going to use it with your permission. Look, I think the differences, so first I talked about the similarities between, but there are differences. Not only in the size of the institution, in the scope of the institution, what kind of degrees we offer, how many graduate programs we have, and so forth, and what is the mission of this institution compared to Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is a research university. We are not. We pay a lot of attention to undergraduate education, providing quality, affordable, personal undergraduate education. That is essential, okay? So, but to your point, it seems like it's a good place to start, but not to finish. I need to understand why that is the case. So, one thing is the campus life maybe, which by being more of a commuter institution, less of residential life, it changes the campus culture. We have to do better at that. There are many ways by which we can engage students, faculty, and staff to create a vibrancy on this campus. There are some students, I'm sure, who want to transfer out to another
Right.
institution, Ann Arbor, and I'm absolutely fine with that, because this is your education. That is personal to you. If we have served you for 2 years and then you choose to go somewhere else, absolutely fine. But what I would like to do is to make sure that you are not leaving for a reason that I could have addressed.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to leave because you want to be involved as an undergraduate in your senior year in big research, I will not be able to do that, because that is not the mission of this institution. But if there are reasons why you are leaving that I could have addressed, I will want to address it. So that's a part of my learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to engage with students to hear from them firsthand. I want to engage with staff because they deal with a lot of students' issues. What can we do to make it an institution where you want to graduate from,
Mm-hmm.
not just start here, you know?
And then, kind of going off of that a little bit, a phrase or a statement that has become very common among people that come to speak at the University of Michigan Flint, or people that praise the University of Michigan Flint, is that the community is very resilient and that it has a lot of potential. And as long as I've been here these last 4 years, that's all I've been hearing, right? So how do you make it so that in 5 years, when this first term is over, you're not up
Saying the same thing,
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're on
that's-
track to actually put that change in place.
Yeah, that's a very, I'm glad. I mean, it's so interesting that students are asking this question, because it clearly means that whatever the potential that this institution has
Mhm.
is still remained a potential, right? Look, I know this institution quite well, and the potential of this institution is the high quality undergraduate instruction. That I believe we are fulfilling. That we are fulfilling. What we need to be doing in terms of making more new programs that are responsive to needs of citizens and market, that we'll have to do. But more to the point of resilient population and so forth, that ties us to the city. Okay, so right here, I can tell you this, the last time I was here was early 2009, and my wife was still a faculty here. We left or she left in fall, in the summer, in July. This downtown from 2009 to now, significant difference.
Right.
It's buzzing. There's new businesses, new restaurants, new shops. There is an energy in the air that you can feel it. So the resiliency and the potential, which I think I am particularly interested in fulfilling, is to make U of M-Flint, the calling card of this institution could be entrepreneurial and innovation. We are tied to the community, creating new opportunities through new businesses, social entrepreneurship, technical entrepreneurship, and we are creating the economic, that we are, this institution is the economic engine of this region. You know? And that is the potential that I feel I am seeing, I am talking about. So 4 years down the road, you won't be here, but I will be very sad, I will be very disappointed if even then I'm saying the same thing. But no, I think we have some clear plans of how to deepen our engagement with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Hagerman Institute, with Ferris Wheel, with other areas, and I think we can make entrepreneurship and innovation a highlight of this institution. So that will be something that I will work on, and I'm hoping that 4 years from now, we will be able to measure results. And one thing I will say this, all the plans that we make, right, as an institution, we need, so if you ask me how am I going to do it, there will be goals, and there will be timeline, and there will be metrics that we will measure on an annual basis against those goals. Are we making appropriate progress on an annual basis? Yes, good. If not, why make the change we need? So if you create a plan, a strategic plan, and if you have milestones on an annual basis and you benchmark against those, you should be able to tell that yes, you're making the right progress or not.
So one question I always like to ask, and any faculty or administration member that has had a history with the University of Michigan is, you worked between 1989 and 2000 in Ann Arbor,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
During your time there, or in that sort of Ann Arbor culture, what was the image of Flint, or when did Flint come up, or in what sort of conversations?
Yeah, so the 20 years that I was there, I was in engineering. Flint in my world did not come up much because we don't have engineering, very small mechanical engineering program. Dearborn used to come up a lot. In fact, I had programs jointly with Dearborn. So if you're talking, do the regional universities or regional campuses factor into the conversation? Yes, it does. Because Flint did not have engineering, it didn't show up. But I think the fact of the matter is that Ann Arbor has a different orientation, and the collaborations oftentimes get started with research, but our online programs here are very good. So oftentimes you have conversations about these areas, but because my wife was here, my knowledge about Flint and affinity for Flint was more than most people because, so that's what it is.
So, how do I word this? We'll skip to that.
Yeah, sure.
So one thing I noticed when I was doing a little research on you, aside from a very impressive academic record, you also have a really good history of being involved in promoting diversity
Yes.
in campuses.
Yes.
And diversity is something that's very important to Flint. It's something it does a very good job of promoting, in my opinion, and something that students seem to be very proud of. How do you plan on continuing that move forward into a more diverse role? Because, you know, despite the diversity we have here, even as early as 2017, there was a climate report where students of color were reporting feelings of being discriminated against, right? How do you plan on addressing those sorts of problems that, you know, will probably continue to exist, right?
Well, so there's two ways to look at it, or two parts to it, not two ways to look at it, two components to it. One is to be able to create an environment where you have the diversity that the real world is composed of, right? Because this is an educational environment. You are being educated and your ideas are being formed not only in the classroom but outside the classroom. So who you interact with, who you connect with, who you work in team projects with are as much a part of what you learn inside the classroom. So that is the reason having a diverse group of students, faculty and staff is important. So that's the numbers thing. What percentage are we having? The second thing, equally important but probably more important, is inclusivity. Just having a diverse student body in the classroom is not enough. By inclusivity, I mean that I have created an environment where every student from whatever group it is feels included, empowered to speak up, to act, to share his or her views about the world. That is a lot more difficult. You know, you can have a lot of efforts in recruitment, but inclusivity is very important. Without inclusivity, you don't get the benefits of diversity. So at Purdue, when I was the Chief Diversity Officer, I focused some on the first part of making sure that we hired faculty of color, staff of color, students, but I was focused a lot on what can we do through policies, activities, and practices to make sure that people from diverse groups are included or feel empowered to take an active role in the thing. So I worked a lot with the student groups. I worked a lot with the LGBTQ group, and you know, it's important that when this thing is viewed, that the highest office on campus, the president's office, chancellor's office, are paying attention. It sends a signal, and I will continue to do that here. I know that we have several councils and groups. They will be empowered by the vice chancellor offices, but I will be very much engaged, looking not only at numbers from year to year, but trying to understand through informal conversations of how a student like you from Columbia feels on this campus. And then I'm sure in some areas it will look good, in other areas it will not, and then we have work to do. But the point is that this has to be front and center, a topic of conversation. You know, you can't put it in the back burner. It is not a destination. It is not something that, okay, we've done that. No, if you take your eyes off of it, you will lose ground. So I want to make sure that it is communicated, the students understand it, staff understand it, the faculty understand it, yeah.
So this has already come up. One of the biggest problems looming over the university is that of enrollment. Your predecessor, Chancellor Borrego, was brought in as the chancellor that was going to get enrollment up. Unfortunately, the Flint water crisis got right in the way. And how do you plan on, because there was a lot of new infrastructure built around getting enrollment up, right? There were new offices built, new people hired. So you're coming in with this foundation already laid. How do you build on that? How
Yeah.
do you move forward with enrollment?
Yeah, so I'm thankful to Chancellor Borrego for creating the infrastructure that was necessary to address the enrollment issue, and unfortunately the water crisis happened, yes. But now the water crisis is not really an excuse, because it is over. The water quality in Flint is about as good as any major city you can go to, right? So I think there are two things we have to do. One is to change the perception, and that you do through extensive communications when our faculty go, I go, our staff go, and through written pieces, and that Flint, University of Michigan Flint, is not adversely affected by the water crisis.
Mm-hmm.
The water here on this campus is perfectly fine, exceeds the federal standards. It's
Mm-hmm.
not meet, it exceeds the federal standards. The second thing is, of course, as I was saying earlier, I plan to add resources in the recruiting side of things. So have recruiters in the state of Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
in Illinois, Ohio, Indiana. And I believe that our programs that we offer are attractive enough, and the name of the University of Michigan at Flint has a quality attribute to it that should allow us to build it back to what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then have a conversation about where should we be. Should we be at 85? Should we be at 10,000? Should we be 15,000? That's a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, our physical and human resource infrastructure is well geared for that number which we used to have 4 years ago,
Which is
8,500.
okay.
It's right there. If you see how
Mhm.
important that is to me, this is where we were in fall 2014, 8574. So, how important it is to me, that is the only chart right in front of my eyes.
Mhm.
I look at it every day. So, phase one, we will turn it around to reach the same thing, because we were there, we know we can
Right.
be a campus, there's no question. And I'm confident that when the schools and colleges and administration work together along the same goals, there are certain areas or disciplines where the enrollment is good nationally, and there are certain areas where enrollment is not good nationally. One way that we need to think about is areas where enrollment is good nationally should try to balance out for the good of the institution if they can take more students
Mm-hmm.
to address the areas where things are not going well. So as an institution, we are making the progress. And then I feel that if the schools and colleges and admissions office and chancellor's office, we take on this responsibility seriously and monitor progress and addressing, again, there will be indicators.
Mm-hmm.
How is our scholarship strategy? Is that adequate or not? How are we doing with terms of marketing our programs in the state? How are we doing in terms of increasing applications from international students? All of these things we have to look at, and we are looking at it. So it is very important to me.
You mentioned in that last answer the appeal of being part of the University of Michigan, right? Of having that a lot of students on campus here. First of all, there is a general confusion as to what the relationships are between the three campuses, right? But more so than that, there's almost this sort of resentment towards Ann Arbor from students here. I would almost say it's like maybe like watching your big brother get everything, or watching maybe your little brothers get everything, right? A lot of students feel shortchanged. They feel that, you know, they have the only benefit they're getting from that M is on a diploma, or, you know, in just being able to say University of Michigan. What have you thought about doing, or is there anything that is kind of being planned to increase, not necessarily the pride in the M, but in creating a better understanding of Flint's standing among this sort of University of Michigan ecosystem, and making more clear basically how the pie is cut up, and why it is that Flint gets what it gets, why does Ann Arbor get what it gets, and why does Ann Arbor or Dearborn gets what it gets.
Well, look, it's I'm still learning about these issues that are in the minds of students or faculty. I'm not there yet in terms of my information. But the fact of the matter is that the three campuses are independent. They fall under the broad University of Michigan umbrella, if you will, but we have a lot of independence in how we run the institution. And that is something very important to us. And we would want to retain that independence, okay? So how we do things reflect what we think our student body needs the most, and we are serving different. What they get from the state, what each of us get from the state, it is because University of Michigan in Ann Arbor is over 200 years old, right? So they get a state appropriation that reflects the dollars that they used to get, which increased. We came in just 60 years ago, right? So there is a disparity there, and that reflects the age of the institution and when we became a part of the state. There are certain opportunities that come to Ann Arbor because of the kind of institution it is, in the terms of the research dollars they bring in, the endowments that they have been able to. Those things are different from us. Where our endowment is, I think it's something that I have to do. We have to raise it for ourselves. We don't have to have the level of endowment that Ann Arbor has for its 45,000 students. Ours are 7,500. But I think we have much more work to do to pull up our endowments. Our research is much less. We are focused more on teaching than research, and that is the orientation of this institution. So we are more tuition driven, and so there are certain differences, but we get a lot of services from them. I should not say us and them. We are all part of the same family. The family name, University of Michigan, has a huge reputation wherever you go in this country or outside in this world. That is huge. Within the family, these three institutions are oriented differently, structured differently, and funding is different. My goal would be to better understand where our student needs are not being met, and what can we do? What can I do here with the leadership to see how those needs can actually be met? If Ann Arbor can help, if it's an area where I think Ann Arbor should be helping, I will be speaking to them. But I would like to be entrepreneurial myself. If I was saying to you earlier, this potential that you're talking about, we in administration have to be entrepreneurial too. We cannot just expect entrepreneurism is something for the students and faculty. So opening up new sources of revenue is a responsibility that I have to take on myself, and generating the kind of resources that provide our students a good education and a good student experience is my responsibility too. So I take that seriously, and I will be engaging in activities which I hope will generate new revenue and address some of the unmet needs.
So, sort of changing topics here a little bit.
Yeah.
You inherited an office that over the last 4 or 5 years had a lot of animosity towards it. I don't know how much of the history you know about Borrego and the university. She did a lot of good things for the university. But there was a lot of faculty members and a lot of people even in administration and which that trickles down into students that just without addressing every single worry, they did, like I said, they just had a sense of animosity towards this office. Have you felt any of that backlash? Obviously, you're not Borrego, you're your own person, but those wounds don't tend to heal up that quickly. Have you felt any of that backlash of any of like distrust towards your office?
No, I have not. I think the faculty and the staff understand I'm a different person.
I guess in other words, have you felt welcome?
Oh, I have felt very welcome. I have felt very welcome. I am very thankful to faculty and staff who have welcomed me, who have helped me thus far, trying to give me the context behind actions and so forth. So, no, I feel very good. Now, it might very well be the honeymoon period, as they say, yes, I'm in my honeymoon period, but I will say something that I have an administrative style, which is mine, and other administrators have their own administrative style. I like to be transparent. I like to be held accountable, me, myself. I like openness. I am holding office hours every month, open hours. You come, you meet with me. I want to meet faculty and students, so I will invite them to the house. The house is not mine, it's the university house, so it is as much the faculty and staff and students as it is mine.
Are you living in that house?
Yeah, I live in that house, absolutely. And soon I will be organizing activities in that house, which hopefully faculty, staff, and students can attend. It's but I respect viewpoints that are different than mine. I think when you talk about diversity and inclusiveness, well, that's what it is. If I have a group of 6 people who have different backgrounds and different experiences, I want them to speak up. I respect their views, and then collectively we have to make decisions about how to move forward. The fact is that as Chancellor, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of this institution, so when the president or the regents want to know something or hold somebody responsible for this institution, it is me. So it is the financial responsibility, human resources, all of, and I'm a faculty member. I'm a tenured faculty member in engineering. So even the curriculum, which is the domain of the faculty, I too am a faculty. So I have views on the curriculum as well. So I will share those views. So I think when you have an environment that is based on mutual respect, trust will get built. It takes time. I'm a new person. They don't know me. But I will have to earn that trust through my actions and my words. And I think it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine.
So another question I wanted to ask you, to kind of wrapping everything up, you have a very impressive history. Like you worked at very prestigious institutions, and throughout this last summer, you applied for different universities, right? Why the University of Michigan-Flint when there were a lot of other prospects?
Very simple. Leaving the University of Michigan 10 years ago made me realize how good an institution it is. I shouldn't have to say this, but oftentimes when you don't have it, you realize how good it was, right? So I have been at 4 different institutions, all in the Big Ten, and University of Michigan is right at the top. The respect that others have, the quality that it projects is remarkable. It's enviable, okay? So that very clearly is one, it brought home. And second, this is our hometown. We have lived our entire careers, the first 20 years, Flint and Ann Arbor. All my kids are born here. They consider Michigan home. When there is Thanksgiving, we come here. So for me, it was a combination of the two. It allows me to go back home in the region where my children grew up, were born and everything, and I spent 20 years. And 2, I'm going back to the University of Michigan, a campus that my wife knows very well, close to the campus that I know very well. It's for me homecoming. So this is very difficult to beat. I mean, it is very difficult to beat. So it was a very easy decision. I was just excited, thrilled. So very pleased to be here.
And just one more question. You rose to a very prominent position in Rutgers, and you were very supportive of a lot of its programs.
Yeah.
So I just have to ask you, in a couple of weeks, Rutgers is going to be playing Michigan. Who are you going to be rooting for?
Michigan.
Michigan?
Absolutely. There is no question. Look, I mean, even when I was at Rutgers, we came here for the game. And the big house, and my wife was there with me. You cannot hide the fact that this is, I am a Michigan guy. My wife is a Michigan woman. My kids are all University of Michigan. You know, I rooted for Michigan even when I was away from Michigan. But sometimes I did it secretly. But now, openly, be proud, go blue. Yeah. Estoy tomando clases de español.
Ah, ¿sí?
Yeah.